I hope that wherever you are happy and healthy and that you are staying sane, no matter if you know what day it is or what time it is or the last time you showered. If you don't know me, my name is Courtney. I'm a makeup artist and an actor living in New York City, though I'm currently quarantining in the mountains of Arizona. We have mountains. Not everybody knows that. And I have been seeing a ton of really wonderful resources about self-tapes. And one thing I wanted to add to the conversation was self-tape makeup. So I'm gonna give you my 4 basic steps to how to make you look and feel your best for your self-tape. Here we go. Okay, so we're gonna break it down into 4 steps. Neutralize, shape, flush, define. I tried to come up with an acronym. I did not. So we're gonna start with neutralize. The main difference between your makeup on camera and the makeup in the theater when we're getting to do our thing live, which I hope we get to do again soon, is that it's not as heavy. We're trying to make sure that someone at the very back of the theater can see all the different definitions of our facial plane so that they can see all of the emotions coming through. The great thing about being on camera is it does the work for you. So less is definitely more. So what I already went ahead and did my base. So I went ahead and did a moisturizer, which I recommend for men, women, everyone to do a moisturizer. And then if you're going to put on any product on top of that, I would definitely do a primer. Moisturizer is for the health of your skin and primer is for the finish of the makeup. So if you are more dry, you want to add a creamier primer to kind of get you right back into that middle zone of skin texture. If you're really, really oily, something that's a bit more mattifying as a primer is really helpful. There are a ton of products out there for you to try, and right now actually is a great time to try them. A lot of companies are offering great return policies so that you can get a chance to try new products and return them if they don't work for you, and a lot of testing of different products. I know Beauty Counter, for one, has a lot of really wonderful testers they'll send out to you so you can see how you feel about the product. Sephora and MAC both have a really great return policy, and a lot of different makeup brands right now are showing 20 to 30 to 40% discounts on product because they want to make sure everyone has access to what they need. So those are really great options if you want to start trying out new products right now. If you need recommendations, I'm happy to give them to you individually. Makeup is very personal, so we want to make sure that today I'm just giving you a general overview of what we would do. So the idea of self-tape makeup is, again, very natural. So we want to start with neutralizing the skin. So any kind of redness or discoloration that shows up on your cheek, on your forehead, on your chin. For myself, I went ahead and did a concealer under my eye and a little bit on my chin and forehead, taking away any of those pink spots that I sometimes get. So I went ahead and neutralized all of that down, and then I used a mattifying powder. I used just a little bit of powder and a big fluffy brush and gave it a little bit all over. If you are not wearing any makeup, for instance, if you're a guy and you have no interest in adding any extra color to your face, totally fine. I still recommend that you use a moisturizer and perhaps a primer if you're up for it, and then use one of these translucent powders. Every makeup brand, no matter the price point, has a translucent powder. From the drugstore to the designer, they all have a translucent powder, and the idea behind it is just to take away any of that sweat or shine so that nothing is distracting from your performance. I know I've spoken to a lot of casting directors about this, and while they all emphasize that less makeup is better, they also really don't want to be distracted by you being overheated. So keeping an eye on it even as you're filming with your selfie function on your phone can sometimes give you a better grasp on what's happening so that you don't get to the end and watch all your takes back and you've slowly gotten shinier and now some of those takes aren't as usable. So after you've mattified your face, you are now nice and neutral. If you're someone who's using a foundation, we want to make sure that we're using 1 pump is usually sufficient. They come out in pumps so that you don't run through your product as quickly. Sometimes half a pump is even enough. We're mostly focusing on the center of the face. We just don't want anything to distract or pull the eye. So a blemish or rosacea, or if you get overheated and you turn a little bit red, and all the things in between. We just want to make sure everything is nice, neutral, and looks like skin. That's a big part of it. We just want it to look like skin. I often drag a little bit of my color down, or at least the powder of my color, because your neck is always lighter than your face. So we want to make sure that we've grabbed that as well. So after you're nice and neutral, we've set it all with a soft translucent powder. There's nothing too reflective on my face. Nothing stands out that I can see. And that's all I have on, a little bit of concealer and some powder. After our moisturizer and our primer. Never forget. So that is step 1, neutralize. Step 2. Now we're gonna go into step 2. We're gonna call this shaping. Many people will call it contouring. Contouring, bronzing, shaping, while they all sound like synonyms, we're gonna try that again. While they all sound like synonyms, they all do have slightly different purposes. For today's purpose, we're just gonna focus on shaping. We wanna make sure that, especially if you have a more round face like myself, we're returning the shape back to the face so that you get a little bit of that definition for the camera. If you have gorgeous cheekbones, if you are Audrey Hepburn of your day, you might not need this step. If you have a more round face like myself, I always want this step. So I'm just gonna take a nice fluffy brush with a little bit of product. Again, we don't need much. I'm just gonna go from the top of my ear toward my mouth, and you can feel it's just gonna go right around underneath that cheekbone. And I'm just gonna go really softly, but I'm not gonna go past the corner of my eye. See? See that? Just warms it up really slightly. It didn't create any dramatic slashes to blend out for 8 minutes. I just want to create a nice soft effect to bring some color back into my face, because faces are not all one color. We want to make sure that we're still showing a very perfected, bright, natural, healthy glow that still looks like skin, right? Just add a little bit of warmth. Something you might want to try. I always like to do it in a C motion. I like to include my forehead. If you were out in the sun for real, then you would get a little bit of light right here, more than you would at the top of your brow bone. So I just try to warm this up, and then I try to go right underneath that cheekbone. And then when I'm working on camera, I usually go underneath my jaw, just to create a nice soft definition. Again, I didn't add any more product. I dipped one time, did both sides, up around my forehead, and then down by my jaw. Just really soft, warm. I still look like skin. I still look like myself. Again, if you are someone who has a really defined facial structure, you might feel no need to do this, and that's totally fine. We want you to feel like you when you're doing your self-tape. The next question people often ask is about highlighter. So we've created that depth, and often we want to add that light. The thing that we are all hearing in these self-tapes is to make sure that your light source is excellent. So whether that's standing in front of the window so you get that beautiful natural light, or if it's using a light bar like I am, or a ring light that creates that sparkle in your eye, all of those are wonderful options. Sometimes that creates that dimension on its own, and we don't feel the need to add anything else to lift the face up. Sometimes, if you want this option, I like to add a little bit of highlighter. It's reflective, but not glittery. I don't need glitter right now. We're gonna save that for another time. And I just go right around that occipital bone in a little baby C, and I blend that out. Again, I'm just pressing it in. My fingers are gonna warm the product a little bit into the skin, which is gonna give it a more natural, there it is, a more natural finish. But if I'm talking on camera, I'm not immediately looking to my highlight to be overwhelming. So again, I'm just tapping a little bit onto my finger and then right in that C motion. I also sometimes use a kabuki brush to put this on. Depends on how much product you really want to live with. That's up to you. And this is just gonna create a lift on that cheekbone, because I don't have Audrey Hepburn's cheekbones, but I wish I did. What about highlighter down the center of your face? I would skip it. Just for this. Normally in life, I'm like, let's go. I really like highlighter. But in a self-tape, we're trying to make sure this part of your face stays the center of attention in a good way. So we don't want this to be shiny, because we want the focus to actually be on your eyes. So I would say to keep this more matte, even if you want to add a little bit of that shine like we did, we want to keep the bridge of the nose and that forehead and chin where we would normally put highlighter. We'll keep that more mattified with those translucent and natural powders. Yes, we've created some beautiful shape. We gave a nice jawline right underneath that cheekbone. Our forehead has been included. If you have a larger forehead and that's something that makes you uncomfortable on film, sometimes bringing that bronzer all the way around will shorten the forehead a little bit and create more accentuation towards the center of the face. is that a word? We're gonna use it. We're gonna use accentuation. That's new. You're welcome. We really want to make, this is what's important, right? We want people looking here, really taking in our emotions and watching our dynamic, incredible, authentic performances. So we want this to be the focus. This is just trappings. It's just pulling focus towards the center of your face. So after we've done some nice, beautiful shaping, you're already through step 2. You're crushing it. We're gonna add a flush, or we want just that flush of life and health and youth. So we wanna make sure we're adding that back in. I'm only taking 1 tap. I don't need a lot of product. Again, none of this is going to take a lot of product. And I'm just gonna go, this is the apple of my cheek, and I'm just gonna go from the apple and softly brush back. Again, it's a little bit pinker, it's a little bit more lifelike, but it's not drawing any focus for the camera. 1 tap, apple, and back. Let's say that you overdid it, your tap took on a little too much. Go ahead and grab that soft, fluffy brush you used to put powder all over your face, even if it just has the translucent on it, and you're just gonna buff some of that out. Again, we don't want anything down here. This should stay nice and neutral. We don't want the bronzer living too far down. We really don't want that blush to travel too far down. We just want to keep that nice and light. And you can always blend and soften as you go to get the desired look that you're wanting. Again, if you're a person who never, ever, ever, ever wears blush, you do not need to try it today. That's totally up to you. We want you to look like you. The other step of flush is the lip. For your lip, you really just want that natural flush, just like you do on your cheek. Nothing too eye-grabbing, nothing distracting. We just want, again, support the overall narrative of focusing towards the center of the face. So I use this tinted lip balm. That's it. If you don't have a tinted lip balm with you, you can always use a chapstick and mix in a little bit of your lipstick and give yourself your own tinted lip balm. That's totally great. Some of the brands have really nice neutral lip colors. That's been very in recently, so you might just have one of those. I would say to stick towards something that's not too shiny and not too matte. We want that very natural, flushed, healthy lip without drawing too much attention down. So again, that's just a nice, easy, balanced way to look at the face. And you can always blot that off. It is going to work off as you do your self-tape, so you want to keep an eye on it, keep an eye on your shiny, and keep an eye on how your lip is lasting inside your self-tape. That's it. You've already 3 steps. You have neutralized, we have shaped, and we have flushed cheek and lip. So now we're going to go to the final step, which is define. We want to define, but not distract. So we're gonna make sure that everything that we're doing is really in tune with who we are and the features that we have. I have a naturally very dark brow. My best friend is a redhead, and she has a clear brow. The hairs on her forehead or face are clear. So if we were to leave behind the brows, she would have lost the picture frame, that's what we call it, the picture frame of her face. So using a little bit of powder or even a soft pencil in a color that is 2 shades lighter than your hair, 2 shades is usually the rule, 2 shades lighter than your hair, to softly bring in those brows and again create a beautiful picture frame of where the eye is supposed to go during those self-tapes is the best bet for her. So if you're really fair and your brows don't exist without a little bit of help, feel free to help them. If you have a gorgeous full brow, then maybe throw some clear gel in there so they don't get all crazy, and you're done. Totally up to you. Make sure you've personalized it to your own look and version of yourself that you're needing for this self-tape. I'm gonna show you what I do with this brow gel. This is a tinted brow gel, and I like to fill in these front little guys just to give them a little more structure. I brush all the way through. This is funny to do on camera. Okay, and I let that dry for like half a second, just because I want that product to have worked through before I move it again. Make sure you can see. And then I'm just gonna put those little babies back with their friends. I don't want my brows to look like they're trying to escape my face. Now, there's not a huge difference between this eye and this eye, but it does look a little more structured. So I am gonna go back through and do the same thing to the other side. Again, I'm just softly dragging that brow wand through, giving a little extra love to the front hairs so that they get filled in just a tick more with this color. And then making sure they don't look like they're trying to escape my face. Now, right now I can see that there's a little touch that got a little excited to be alive. So I'm gonna go through and I'm just gonna soften that out. Oh, bye. Gone. But it still gives me that nice structured look, like I paid attention to my brows today, without drawing any extra attention. Yeah, you can go a little bit further if you want. You can do a lot less if you want. That's, again, totally up to you. We just want to make sure that the picture frame is set, even if it's just a clear brow gel or if it's just bringing that spoolie on through so that they look nice and put together. The other thing I always do, and this I say for everybody, it's my favorite thing to do. I'm going to show you my favorite thing to do. I'm going to curl my eyelashes. Some people are really afraid of this thing. It can't hurt you. You're in charge. You can do this. So you want to make sure that you are close to a mirror so that you can get really in there. So I've pressed my lashes all the way through and I'm at the base of the lash line before I close. Then I'm going to close these two things together and I'm going to tell you my secret. I'm going to count to 8 twice because I was once a dancer. 5, 6, 7, 8, 2, 3. And then I'm going to pulse 3 times. Don't know why. Pas-de-bout, right. 1, 2, 3. Now, when you let go, this is where people get a little messed up. When you let go, you're going to completely open the gate before you lift it off your eye. What? I'm gonna look right in the camera so you can see this difference. This makes me look really awake, which is what we want. So we're gonna make sure that we look nice and awake, right? Holy moly. So now I'm gonna do the other eye. Feel free to get really close with the mirror just so that you feel more comfortable. Again, all the way to the base. Slowly close and clamp. Hold for 2 full 8 counts. You can do this. And then you're gonna pulse 3 times. And then open the gate all the way and then lift off the eye. Right? That's life-changing. Sometimes when I'm really low maintenance in the morning or if I had a really early client, I would just do a little concealer, curl my lashes, mascara, gloss, and go. Feel free to use that for your Zoom meetings. So all I did was curl my lashes. There's no mascara on there. I'm not wearing any eyeliner. Sometimes that creates a really nice natural line. It's also a beautiful shelf for those who are a little bit more uncomfortable with eyeliner when they're trying to put it on top or trying to work with it in general. Sometimes having a little shelf to work on is really nice. Okay, I'm gonna show you 2 different eyeliner options. There's a billion eyeliner options, but I'm gonna show you 2. We just want a really soft, defined, we're assisting the eye in standing out. We're not creating a new eye shape. We're not making it about the eyeliner. We're making it about your eye. So in doing that, I wanna go from a side space. I don't wanna come straight at my eye because if I'm doing this and I'm softly pulling at an angle, it's a really soft color. If I'm going directly on my hand, oh, wow, that got out of hand real quick. So I want to start at an angle, and I'm just going to softly drag along that line with soft strokes. That's it. You may or may not even notice that I have eyeliner on. Great. I hope you don't. But you're looking more at my eye. That would be the goal, right? So we're going to do the same thing on this side. Using that shelf. Sorry, I'm left-handed, so it's a little hard to go flat. Right? Soft and open. The other thing you can do, if you feel like this got out of hand really quickly. Like if you are someone who, when you put it on, it was really creamy and it went on really fast. You can just take a Q-tip and just take that thing right off. Or you can take a flatter brush that's a little denser and you can kind of smooth that out. We want to make sure that, I always do it on the outer third of the eye. So from here to before that color starts on your eye, because we're just trying to bring that eye up a little bit and bring a little bit more attention to it. We don't want to all the way across, because in some eye shapes it can close the eye down, and in some it can just become a little bit overwhelming. So just a soft accentuation on the outer third of the eye is always a great move, no matter what your eye shape is. Another option you can do, which I usually do instead of this top liner, is you can go on that top waterline. Now, the difference between the top waterline and the bottom waterline, most eyes you can see the bottom waterline more clearly. The top waterline kind of hides. So if you just want a soft accentuation of your eye, but you don't like eyeliner on top or you're not as comfortable with it, putting a little bit of eyeliner on your waterline can sometimes give you that definition without having to sacrifice any of your eyelid space. And I'm just putting a little bit underneath these lashes for definition. If you put it on that bottom waterline, I'm gonna see it really fast. So if you're doing something that's a little bit edgier, if you're singing for Jagged Little Pill or season 3 of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and you're a villain, then what have I been watching? Then you can do a little bit more eyeliner and smoke it out. That's kind of that rebel look that sometimes we're going for, but that's not necessarily what you want for those general self tapes where you're just trying to be yourself but amplified. So we just want to make sure that we're bringing definition but not distraction. You could also, depending on your eye shape, might feel more comfortable putting a little bit of eyeliner underneath. That's totally fine. Again, I would stick to that outer third and make sure it's nice and blended and soft so it doesn't pull any focus or look like any hard lines. If you're someone who's more fair, if you're a blonde or a redhead, using a brown instead of a black is a great idea. Again, we just want soft definition. We don't want anything too drastic. Darker hair, sometimes you need a little bit more for it to even show up or feel like it's on your face, and that I totally get. The last thing, 2 last things. We have 2 last things. That's not a thing, but we'll pretend. Is I like to give my eye a little bit of definition. So I went ahead and put some concealer on my eyelids earlier. When I did my under eye, I put a little concealer on my eyelids because I wanted to take away any of that blue purple. I wanted to brighten the eye and make it look nice and youthful and well rested. So creating a nice neutral palette, you can use a paint pot for that. You can use a concealer for that. Again, you don't need a lot of product. That skin is very thin and very soft. So you just need a teeny tiny bit. And you can always tap it in with your finger and then set it with the same face powder or with a neutral eyeshadow or even with your translucent powder that you have. But it's a nice brightener. 10 out of 10 recommend. So sometimes I like to open up that eye by giving a little bit more definition up in this crease area. That's kind of it. I just want it to match back to the other panes of my face. So I'm using a tap of this bronzer, the same bronzer I used underneath, and I'm just swiping it in a rainbow motion really softly. If you wanted to, and especially if you're fair, sometimes this can look even better. If you have blue eyes, this looks amazing. You can use your blush instead. So just a really soft tap and then write as a rainbow on that crease. And it's just gonna allow your eyes to feel like they're more connected to the rest of what's going on. Again, nothing too heavy, not a ton of product anywhere. My real final step, I know, you were concerned. My real final step is mascara because I love it. I love it so much. I would keep a clean spoolie handy, or if you have a lash comb, or if you needed to, you could take the spoolie that you're gonna use through your mascara, and after your first round, you can clean off the spoolie and use it to separate your lashes. You're just gonna go in really lightly and start at the base and hit every lash so it's nice and separated. Some people like to go in real hard real quick. You want to make sure that you're going really softly this first round. The first round of mascara, and most mascara for self-tape in general, is just making sure you've hit every lash and that they exist in their own feathery world. We don't want that heavy eye mascara look because it will start to distract. It could get cakey, it's hard to comb through, then it falls, it's a mess. So we just want to make sure we're hitting every lash and keeping them all nice and separate. If you get a particularly stubborn one, again, you can just go back through with a comb, not a real comb, a lash comb, although maybe, I don't know, how long are your lashes? And make sure they're all nice and lifted and separated, which that lash curler has already given you a great lift. And that's just gonna make you look a little bit more awake. If you wanna do the bottom lashes, go for it. I usually do because I think it, again, just serves to accentuate and define the eye. But I have the lightest touch when it comes to those bottom lashes. I could make them like, but we don't want that to be the story. We want the story to be the story and the makeup to serve the story. So I'm just gonna quickly do the other side. Again, really soft touch. You can always add, but it's really hard to take away. And that goes for really anything on your face. If you were doing a ton of bronzer or a ton of blush or you overdo the highlighter, it's just always easier to start with a lighter hand. We always say a feather light touch because you can always build. It may take a little while longer for you to get the hang of exactly where you want to go, but then you haven't gone too far to where you're having to start all over. So we're just making sure all those lashes are nice and separated. And then if you wanted to go back through, say you had a brown mascara instead of a black and you wanted just a little bit extra, you could tip those lashes or even just give it a second coat. That's totally up to you, whatever makes you feel comfortable. But I think one coat is enough for a self-tape. We're just trying to, again, define without distracting. Right? Happy, healthy, awake. So exciting. That's it. You look amazing. I don't know if you've been doing this while I'm doing it. Again, so it's just a nice, natural, clean, awake, bright. It's kind of the selfie. It's that filter on Instagram, but you're doing it instead of the filter. So the sparkle filter, do you know what I'm talking about? I hope so. It's just brightening up the center of the face, making sure we're still nice and soft and skin-like. We feel accessible and natural and normal so that the story can also feel accessible. It's super fun to play with your makeup if you're looking for something that's a little bit more type specific. So for instance, if you are going in for that jagged little pill or rebel edgier show and you want to amp up that eyeliner, go for it. If you're going for more of a 50s show and you want to make sure you have a slight wing or a little bit of a red lip, the only thing I would say when getting more specific is to make sure that there winks at what you're doing. We don't want to create, they're not expecting us to be professional makeup artists, so we don't need to create the full look. Just a soft wink towards the genre, towards the world, so that they know that we know what we're doing, but we're not too focused on this, we're more focused on this. So this, again, is just a nice, neutral, natural self-tape makeup. We're gonna neutralize, shape, flush, and define, but not distract. I hope that this has been helpful. If you have any other questions or if you want product recommendations or if you're finding yourself struggling with something with your skin or your eye shape or trying to find the right way to put on an eyebrow, please feel free to reach out to me. I want to be helpful to you in this time. So I hope this has been a useful endeavor in that it's been fun. Just remember, makeup is a joyful, fun thing. I know everyone's history with makeup and relationship to the idea of makeup is a little bit different, but we want it to be a joyful, additive thing. You can always take it off. If it's stressing you out, you don't need it. This is just an easy self-tape 4-step face. Have a good day. I wanted to add a couple of extra things. One for guys. If you are not super comfortable with makeup or familiar with it or have a ton of it, but you want to know what would make you look best for a self-tape, we touched a little bit on it in the initial video. Using a moisturizer and a primer and a little bit of that translucent powder all over your face will give you a nice, clean, non-shiny look for when you're doing your self-tapes. If you have some skin issues, if you have a couple blemishes or discoloration, you can use the concealers as well and finish off with that translucent. You just want to make sure everything looks really pressed into the skin, really natural, and that you're not losing the shapes of your face. So all this is still very useful to you. You just probably want to use a little bit less than I typically would. Again, we just want everything really nice, natural, and blended. Underneath the eye is often a problem area for guys. Using something that has more of a peachy tone will combat those purples and dark blues and just give you a little bit of lift. You don't need to put any powder on that. I would just tap a little bit in with your fourth finger. That's your lightest touch, and make sure everything looks nice and blended so nothing sticks out. Check with that selfie function, make sure in front of your light that it reads the same as in your mirror before you get started. And then keep an eye on that shininess as you go. If during this quarantine you are trapped inside and you don't have access to translucent powder right away, but you do have cornstarch, that is actually an okay duplicate. I would say to make sure you wash your face really well afterwards, but it can be really helpful to just tap a little bit of cornstarch down the center of your face before you are taping your self-tapes. So I hope that helps. If you want more specific product recommendations, I'm happy to give them. Again, just reach out. Also, guys, you should be wearing lip balm. Making sure that your lips don't get chapped. I find that guys tend to forget their lips more than women do. Just a regular old chapstick will do it. Nothing, again, too shiny. We just want to make sure that's nice and hydrated and healthy looking so that no one's like, oh, he's like, are you dehydrated? What's going on? So we just want to make sure, again, that the lips don't look chapped. So we just want to put a little chapstick on before you film. Brows. If you are someone who's not super comfortable with doing your brows, this is the general template that I take. I go right here at the beginning. I'm not going to fill it in because I already did. So I'm just going to softly brush up, feather-light strokes through the center of your face, which is the very front of that brow. Then I'm gonna go from the bottom to the very top. So anything in here that looks like it's a little barren, we just wanna fill that in a little bit. And then you're gonna go from the top to the bottom. Nothing should be one line. It's gonna feel really overwhelming if you do it that way. I would say, again, you're just gonna go bottom to the top, top to the bottom, feather-light strokes, and then you're gonna use that, brow brush to softly go through and then settle them back in with their friends. You can do this with a pencil, you could do it with powder, you could do it with the brow gel. Totally up to you. It's the same process every time. Sometimes they feel a little bit more, depending on who you are, you feel more comfortable with a different product. That's great. We just want them to feel nice and natural. Brows get out of hand really quickly, so the lighter your touch, the better. Also, sometimes stepping away is a good idea. You want to move away from your mirror for a few minutes and come back, and then you're like, what did I do? Just brush back through it or use a Q-tip and get some of that product off. Mess up, fix up. There's nothing irreparable. We can always fix it. It's just makeup.